program, we've got the Secretary of State of the great state of Arkansas, Mr. Mark Martin, is on the line. Mark, welcome back to the program, sir.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning to you. So, how have you been? How's filing been? I mean, I know that's been the key topic of the Capitol right now. Everybody's filing to run for office. How'd that go this week?
Pretty good. I think the main topic that a lot of people had was whether or not I was actually going to file to run for anything. I think they believe me now when I told them I wasn't. I was done with this for a while.
Well, you know, when a politician, see, most politicians are not like you, Mark. Most politicians love the power, and it becomes their identity. Their identity is whatever office they hold. I know you. That's not you. So when you say that you're not running, you're not running.
Well, I mean, there might have been some things that could have changed my mind about it, but you know what? You listen to the good Lord, and if He said no, you just go with no, and you'll be safe about it.
Okay, all right. So I want to get your thoughts on something. I guess it's interesting. You know, we have Arkansas Works being debated. They're going to try to fund this thing again. They got to have 75%. Of course, before it was Arkansas Works, it was the private option. It all operates under the umbrella of Obamacare and the individual mandate. And I know you've been against this thing from day one, but I'm just curious. I mean, has anything happened that has changed your mind from where we were versus where we are now?
Just depends on what you mean, change my mind. Change my mind being against it in a big way, or just plain old against it extremely, because I've gotten, it's only, the stuff that's come out's only affirmed my reasons for being against it.
So you're saying where we were versus where we are now, you're even more against it than you were when you first started being against this concept of Medicaid expansion.
That's true, because, I mean, the conservatives, the warnings that conservatives were putting there were being met with what seemed like reasonable things that could work out if everything happened right. So, you know, you get the benefit of the doubt, even though you know that it's probably wrong. And then when you look at it at a philosophical level, you know that transferring what might be good for Arkansas to our children's debt in the future from a federal level, there was no way around that. That was the basic reason why we should have all been against it to start with, because just because we have a few more cash dollars rolling into Arkansas for a short period of time up front doesn't mean that we should saddle our children with federal debt. I mean, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, and the only problem is you have to pay Paul back 2 or 3 times what you robbed Peter for. So, I mean, everybody knew that was the situation, but they thought, well, it'd be good for Arkansas, and we got to get ours. Now, you cut some people some benefit of the doubt, thinking, that's probably not a good idea, but now we're coming to find out that it's even worse than that, that the money that's actually rolling back into Arkansas as this moves forward is going to be more even than what was originally estimated, this balloon payment that we're going to be facing. So I don't know how much longer that the state of Arkansas can kind of kick that can down the road. We may be able to get past the next 4 years without it just absolutely destroying the budget. Of course, you know, governors are pretty good at kicking cans down the road and leaving the next governor sitting high and dry. So, you know, it only makes sense to me that those people that are actually in line to be the governor the next time would not want this dropped in their lap.
Right. No, yeah, you're exactly right about that. We're talking with Secretary of State Mark Martin about Arkansas Works Obamacare. Hey, Mark, let me ask you this, because, you know, Arkansas is the only state to have done this. I mean, and I think we're the only state that has messed it up to such a degree with our innovative idea to give the money to insurance companies. And, you know, the Republicans, I'd say that they couldn't have done it, but they did do what they did. I will say, you know, they ran against, the establishment Republicans even ran against Medicaid expansion back in 2012, and then in 2013 they expanded Medicaid, but they did it under a different way. And if they would have just done it the traditional way, I still would have been against it, meaning what Obama wanted everybody to do was just to expand the existing Medicaid program and put the new population into that. But if you did it that way, right, you don't get, Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't get this guaranteed taxpayer revenue source every single month. And so kind of in hindsight, I'm
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program this Monday. Happy Monday. Thank you guys for tuning in. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here, a liberty machine where we want you to be a part of that. And if you do, one of the ways you can do it is to get in touch with us. Share us your information, 870-275-9799. Call or text. Go to facebook.com/Conduit News. Sound off. We've got a listening audience there already, ready to get the truth about politics in the great state of Arkansas. So let's start with what we have going on this week, shall we? And then we're going to get to the news. Some of it happened over the weekend in different publications. Politician says this, politician says that. After the program is over today, I am going to be making my way over to the great town of Russellville because, of course, we have the special election that is coming up a week from tomorrow on the 13th. And, of course, last week I told you it's going to be a bumpy 2 weeks, and now it's going to be a bumpy 1 week. This is a race between establishment candidate versus anti-establishment candidate, a pro-ASA, pro-$2 billion Blue Cross Blue Shield windfall versus somebody who is not for that. Of course, I'm talking about Breanne Davis, who is Asa Hutchinson's pick, who is Michael Lamoureux's pick, who is the Little Rock Monolith lobbyists' pick, and we have the financial data to prove all of that. Or you have Bob Bailey, who is the Give Freedom a Chance guy, who is not beholden to the special interests in Little Rock, who is only beholden to his principles. And thankfully, he's got the the finances to be able to do that, to be able to say, I just want to go down there and vote what I think is right and what I think is wrong, and who cares? I don't have to say, well, I know I took money from you, Big Pharma. There's no pressure there. It's really, that's what this is about, folks. Whether or not an average Arkansan can get involved and try to make a difference, or whether or not a pre-selected, predetermined, chosen candidate is going to prevail. That is the choice for District 16. And the stakes are really, really high. They're so high that people are now having to conceal, once again, their true agenda. What do I mean by that? Well, so we have detailed many times on this program where when the people of Arkansas find out that this program or this candidate's actions or whatever are actually progressive or liberal or basically Democrat light, when we find out that they really don't want, when you find out they really don't want what you want, that's the Republican Party platform or limited government, they then have to flip the game. They have to change the rules, or they try to conceal by changing the name. We saw this when Governor Asa Hutchinson changed the name of the private option to Arkansas Works. It's still the same program, but the people knew the private option was Obamacare. So he gave us the same program, but changed the name to Arkansas Works. We see that here. Breanne Davis in Senate District 16 is openly supported by Hillary Clinton voters. We have the audio of Hillary Clinton praising Asa Hutchinson for what he's doing with Arkansas Works. We have stickers of cars in parking lots from the last election where Hillary Clinton voters are supporting Breanne Davis. Again, we have Facebook posts where Hillary Clinton supporters in Senate District 16 are saying we have to vote for Breanne Davis because she's the centrist choice, and if she ends up beating the Democrat in November, we're more happy with that than we are if Bob Bailey wins. So what does Breanne Davis's side have left? What does Michael Lamoureux's side have left? What does Asa Hutchinson and the Little Rock Monolith Marble Palace establishment have left? They call on their old friends who used to have a voice in Arkansas politics solely because of Senator John Woods, who's now been indicted. By the way, his public corruption trial will continue. We'll have more on that later in this program. And the group is called Conservative Arkansas. They're not a conservative group, though, but they call themselves Conservative Arkansas in an effort to deceive, in an effort to try to stand up and promote the establishment, in an effort to promote Asa Hutchinson, in an effort to protect Asa Hutchinson's coattails, to support Breanne Davis. They're called Conservative Arkansas. I call them Con Arkansas because that's what this is. It's a well-played con, and it has been exposed before. These people have been defeated before, but we will see whether that happens. Again, it's going to be a very close race. You have to tell everybody and your mom to get out and go vote if they want their voice heard. And it's runoffs are all about turnoff and you turn out, and you never know about what's going to happen in a runoff. You never really can tell. And so Conservative Arkansas is treating themselves as a news organization, and they're putting all this money into Senate District 16 and Facebook ads and things like that. And they're back, and they're supporting Breanne Davis, and they're putting out these attack pieces on the where Bob Bailey's funding is coming from. Notice they can't talk about the issues. Conservative Arkansas is not going to come out and say we support Arkansas Works and $2 billion every year in funds from taxpayers to Blue Cross Blue Shield, so vote for Breanne Davis. They're not going to talk about the issues. No, all they can do is try to attack. See, I can go down and I can tell you that Bob Bailey's pro-Second Amendment. He's anti-Obamacare. He's for term limits. Right? I can go and tell you all of those things, and the list goes on. But they're not going to tell you that. They're just going to say, well, here, listen, this is what's up right now. Is Bob Bailey bought and paid for? Can you believe this? This is ridiculous. When the truth is, Breanne Davis is bought and paid for. So they pull out this thing. Breaking last week, we shared a video that accused Arkansas Senate District candidate Bob Bailey of being almost entirely funded by one wealthy group controlling multiple PACs. Now, they do something else. Now, look in the comments. Scroll down to the comments, because we do have some sane people whose comments are actually battling this. Okay. Listen to this. My question is, will Miss Davis owe to this governor and Big Pharma money and other establishment donors? CVS is backing her. They want to monopolize their pharmacy business, and I have read about this site, fake name, and a propaganda tool for the establishment. That's Steve on Facebook, who obviously understands what we understand here, that these people, Conservative Arkansas, are actually not conservatives at all. They are trying to deceive the people on Facebook, the people of Senate District 16, by just calling something conservative, just like Asa tries to make you think Obamacare is better because he renamed it Arkansas Works. Again, when you connect these pieces together, folks, it is obvious what's going on here. Asa Hutchinson can't win by being honest with you. Breanne Davis can't win by being honest with you in terms of who she's really going to have her allegiance to, right? If, for example, Asa Hutchinson has to claim he's as conservative as Ronald Reagan. Breanne Davis has to use the word conservative. She can't use the word centrist. She can't use the word middle of the road. Moderate, right? She's got to claim she is as far right as they come, within reason. If Asa can't just say, well, I'm kind of a middle of the road Republican and you should vote for me. That can't be his campaign. Can you imagine if that were Asa Hutchinson's campaign in the upcoming primary? Vote for me. I'm Asa Hutchinson. Middle of the road always wins. That's not going to win here in Arkansas in a primary. So he has to deceive and mislead about what his record truly is. And the same thing for his candidates that he supports that are going to support his policies like an increase in the gas tax. Oh, by the way, I've heard that the governor is really starting to get defensive. He supported a $217 million gas tax increase, and now he's trying to say he didn't. Scroll all the way down. Eventually, I'm just telling you, the truth is getting out there. We have some people who are taking the bait. They don't understand conservative Arkansas is con Arkansas. They're trying to con the people of Senate District 16. We have the Conduit News graphic here where the Brian Davis fundraiser, where we put up and we list Big Pharma, Big Medicaid, all the people, the lobbyists that are actually funding Brian Davis's campaign. And Chris on Facebook writing, this is supposed to be a conservative group, ? This sounds like it came straight from Hillary Clinton's mouth. This is disgusting and distorted, and you should change the name to Arkansas Libtards and be accurate. That's Chris on Facebook. He understands that conservative Arkansas is not a conservative organization. Just wanted to set the record straight. And then, of course, we have our graphic. Somebody tries to make fun of it, says this is cute. Next time, don't use paint shop. So this is a way to ignore the relevant information. I will just say, at this point, there are very few people's minds who are not made up, right? And it's all going to be about turnout. For the rest of you listening across the state, in Little Rock, Stuttgart, Jonesboro, Fort Smith, Rogers, if you know and have any family member that live in Russellville or the District 16 area, Pope County, Newton County, parts of Carroll County, and is it parts of Van Buren or parts of Searcy? No, parts of Boone, I think. If you have anybody that lives in that area, call them. And, just tell them what the stakes in this election are. If you're listening to this program, you're probably a limited government conservative. And you're probably sick of what's going on. You're probably sick of the people of Arkansas voting for Republicans over Democrats for reform, only to have excuses and, in some cases, the same old policies. In some cases, they are actually growing government. Matter of fact, we're gonna show you coming up in the next half hour a Republican who is actually now openly admitting what we have been saying for a long time, and that is that the Republican policies here don't fly in other Republican states in the South and really the rest of the country. Joe, were you wanting to say something, man? No? Okay. Are you having a good Monday? Yeah, I'm having a good Monday. You don't want me to say this. Okay. I don't want you to say what you want to say on air. That's what you're saying? Okay. Okay. All right. That's fine. Why don't we just skip the FCC fine then? And we'll just go ahead and skip that, and let's not go there. All right, so let me see here. Hang on a second. I wanted you to know where I'm going to be tonight, but I can't find. Here we go. All right, so I'm leaving for Russellville to get involved. I don't know. I'm gonna be there for a few days, couple of days. Now, for our online audience, we're still going to have video feeds for you, so. You'll be able to listen just like you can online every day, but a slightly different camera, and we're going to be in a different location. But just so you know, that's where I'm going to be in Russellville. But tonight, I would invite everybody out. Everybody. For a early vote. Early voting starts today. And so you can come here, neighboring senators. You can come here, House members. You can come hear them talk about the issues and why they're supporting Bob Bailey, because it's a huge rally that we're having. It's an early voting rally, and you guys are invited. If you're listening to this, you're invited. You don't have to be a member of Senate District 16. You can come on out to the Bob Bailey headquarters at 404 North Arkansas Street in Russellville. There'll be light refreshments. Bob Bailey will be there, and also there'll be Senators Gary Stubblefield, Alan Clark, House members Charlotte Vining Douglas, Josh Miller, State Representative Dan Sullivan. Come on out, and there'll be more. But come on out, support Bob Bailey. That's where I will be at this great event tonight. Everybody is welcome, and we're going to take a break now. It's Monday. And I hope everybody is having a fantastic start to their week. Back in just a moment.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, 870-275-9799. Flashback to Friday. Our program on Friday, we highlighted this article over at the Arkansas Times, Arkansas nonprofit news network, posted by Benjamin Hardy. Headline, State Attorney General joins another suit to undo Obamacare, including Arkansas Works. We highlighted this because it is very interesting that one of the state's constitutional officers, Leslie Rutledge, is now pursuing a lawsuit that if won, would actually undo what Asa Hutchinson is trying to keep. And how it's interesting how you have one constitutional officer, Governor Hutchinson, trying to keep Arkansas Obamacare, but you have the Attorney General Leslie Rutledge now moving what appears to be in the opposite direction, having opposite goals. We talked to another constitutional officer on Friday, Secretary of State Mark Martin, who agreed that this program is unsustainable. On Tuesday, tomorrow, we will talk to Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, who will be on the program. And so with that, on Friday, we did a flashback, and we told you that Tim Griffin has said all along he's always opposed what Arkansas has done. And here he is, Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin, flashback from 2014, the Pine Bluff commercial. This is what he said. Listen.
I've been very clear about this. First of all, I approach this from first and foremost from a federal perspective, representing my constituents as a member of Congress. And I have had concerns about this from the start that still have not been satisfactorily addressed. From a federal perspective, Medicaid is going bankrupt, and we are just expanding it, whether it's in the form of a private option or traditional Medicaid in another state. And there is no dedicated funding stream. There is no dedicated funding stream. This is just, it is lumped in with the rest of Medicaid. And I will tell you, the argument that if we don't take the money, someone else will spend it, that's not true. That is not true. This is not money that goes to another state if we don't take it. This is money that will not be spent by the federal government. So that's number one. What is the funding stream? It would be irresponsible of me as a member of Congress to say, and particularly as a member of Ways and Means, to say, I don't care how you pay for it. And I have not heard a satisfactory answer to that, number one. Number two, Medicaid, traditional Medicaid, is a critical program for a lot of people, and it is going bankrupt. And this does not fix it. In fact, in Medicaid programs across the country, whether they're expanded or not, are not seeing the kind of reform I think they deserve. Now, in Arkansas, there have been some changes to traditional Medicaid, to the payment system, but the type of changes that will save Medicaid have to be comprehensive and bold. That's number two. And I even said the other day, if the private option is going to save money, why didn't we push Sebelius to let us turn the traditional Medicaid program into the private option first?
Yeah, he's exactly right. And I'll take that point a step further. If you're going to put 300,000 people on a welfare program and it's going to save the state money, why not put everybody on it? Why not put all of us on welfare if it's going to save us money? Let's all just stop working and take stuff from the government for free. Oh, well, no, that wouldn't work. Oh, no. That wouldn't be a thing that we could do. By the way, you realize, and we're going to get into this more tomorrow, because honestly, I'm going to have to wrap my head around it. But they're now talking about how much money they're going to save. What, a couple $1 million, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million is how much Arkansas Works is going to save. And they control the numbers with this. Of course, $2 million is going to cost us to come up with a website to track these so-called work requirements. If we even get them, we still don't know them. We just still don't have them. The administration says they're the most stringent in the country, if the administration says they're the most stringent, you can guarantee that it's not the case. You can't trust anything that they say about this program. Let me say that again. Asa Hutchinson controls the information. He controls the data. And just like Mike Beebe, you can trust nothing they tell you about the numbers of this program. By the way, the enrollment alone in the last week of what is the current number of people on the welfare program has changed like 5 times. Like, you never know. They keep quoting a different enrollment number every single time they do a story on this. And they're doing stories on it almost daily because they're coming up for the funding vote of whether or not to fund the DHS budget. So, I mean, you do the math on that. All right, we're up against a hard break. We're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to talk about how there are a lot of Democrats who have filed in Northwest Arkansas. Now, think about that for a second. Northwest Arkansas, when I was growing up, was the only place you could be a Republican. It was the only place you could be a Republican. And now there's still tons of Republicans from Northwest Arkansas, but if you actually look at some of their policies, the older district has been Republican. It seems the more there's a tendency for them to be for bigger government and be these big business, anti-free market types. I find that interesting. I find that consistent with the human condition of fallen man, but I find it interesting. Northwest Arkansas has got some problems with their Republicans. We'll highlight one when we come back.
Thinking, trouble, not a good idea, but now we're coming to find out that it's even worse than that, that the money that's actually rolling back into Arkansas as this moves forward is going to be more even than what was originally estimated, this balloon payment that we're going to be facing. So I don't know how much longer that the state of Arkansas can kind of kick that can down the road. We may be able to get past the next 4 years without it just absolutely destroying the budget. Of course, governors are pretty good at kicking cans down the road and leaving the next governor sitting high and dry. So, it would only makes sense to me that those people that are actually in line to be the governor the next time would not want this dropped in their lap.
Right. No. Yeah, you're exactly right about that. We're talking with Secretary of State Mark Martin about Arkansas Works Obamacare. Hey, Mark, let me ask you this, because Arkansas is the only state to have done this. I mean, and I think we're the only state that has messed it up to such a degree with our innovative idea to give the money to insurance companies. And the Republicans, I'd say that they couldn't have done it, but they did do what they did. I will say, they ran against, the establishment Republicans even ran against Medicaid expansion back in 2012, and then in 2013 they expanded Medicaid, but they did it under a different way. And if they would have just done it the traditional way, I still would have been against it, meaning what Obama wanted everybody to do was just to expand the existing Medicaid program and put the new population into that. But if you did it that way, right, you don't get, Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't get this guaranteed taxpayer revenue source every single month. And so kind of in hindsight, I'm thinking, it's hard for me not to think that this whole thing was really just carefully crafted. Almost it's just like a conspiratorial. It's like, okay, well, we're the only state that did what we did, and we're also the only state that really had this huge Republican wave of candidates that came in office saying they weren't going to do the traditional Medicaid. And so the lobbyists and the special interests come in and say, well, we're going to figure out a way for them to, send all of this money to insurance companies. It's a very, very weird situation. I don't think weird really describes it, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's a very complex thing going on that occurred there. One of the things is a lot of Republicans really don't get the fact that just because we're for capitalism doesn't mean we're for crony capitalism. And then I think that the reason it seems to correspond with the wave is not so much that there's some nefarious goings on there. We had a bunch of Republicans come into office that really never had to either survive under the Democrats and the tough fight that we had to do to maintain a conservative.
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, so Joe just made me watch a video that I thought was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time, and I think we're going to get to it on Friday. We'll do a whole thing on it because it's really funny. And if you want to get a head start on that, Joe, what do they need to go look up if they want to go ahead and watch this for themselves?
Okay, so go to YouTube and type in the name Jaron Myers, and that's Jaron Myers, Myers.
Okay.
And it's the very first thing that pops up other than his actual YouTube channel.
And it's called the Chick-fil-A.
Well, it's called My Pleasure.
My Pleasure. So it's not official. Is it officially affiliated with Chick-fil-A?
Hold on 1 second. Let me look.
I don't know. Anyway, he does a rap, and it's a whole joke.
The thing it says, My Pleasure, Jaron Myers, Chick-fil-A rap.
Okay. So he does this whole thing, and the chorus says, "It is my pleasure to serve you." If you've ever been to a Chick-fil-A, that's what they all say, right? It's my pleasure to serve you at the window. And
if you ever say thank you, the next response is my pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, it's an incredible service. Really, really, really good. But it's a funny video.
The ending is hilarious.
And, yeah. And it makes Chick-fil-A employees out to be like these superheroes. So, yeah, definitely, this is really funny. We'll do a little, I want to show people that on Friday because I'll for sure be back here by Friday. All right, phone number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. This is Conduit News Radio. You can find out more. Go to facebook.com/Conduit News. We're broadcasting live. I see that there's a voter's guide in the Senate, state Senate race, the special election between Breanne Davis and Bob Bailey. That's sure to stir some people up, where she actually is on the issues. 15 issues important to you: Second Amendment, term limits, school choice. Bob Bailey's on the right side of all those. $2 billion Obamacare Medicaid expansion, continued overspending, bad tort reform, managed care, PBMs. That's a big one from the pharmacies. Supporting the internet sales tax, the gas tax. Now, how can you infer that? Well, there's an article dated from 2016 that says Asa Hutchinson supports candidates that support his agenda. Well, Asa's agenda has been and still is the internet sales tax and the gas tax. And he's on record multiple times advocating for a gas tax. He's on record multiple times advocating for an internet sales tax. Asa Hutchinson, by the way, has even advocated for Congress to pass a national internet sales tax. That's all documented of public record. So that's sure to stir some people up. Maybe we'll get a closer look at that a little later in the week. All right, listen to this. Here we go. Out of Northwest Arkansas, Mr. Doug Thompson yesterday with a piece headlined Democratic Filings Surge. It's a whole piece that's centered around the fact that there's a lot of candidates who have now filed for the legislature as Democrats from Northwest Arkansas, and there's almost as many candidates for the legislature from Northwest Arkansas as in the last 3 elections combined. And for the first time, a majority of those candidates are women. I've been talking about this. What does this mean? I've been asking questions, all these women kind of getting into politics. And it's especially if they're Democrats. If they're Democrats, it's clear that they have bought into the liberal media hype. I mean, I bet they only watch CNN. I bet they only watch MSNBC, or they toggle between the two. Or maybe they love and they think that George Snuffleupagus gives them unbiased news on Good Morning America every morning. Or maybe they think that NBC News is the Today Show. Or maybe they get their late night news, from Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon or Stephen Colbert. Maybe that's where they get their news, and that's what informs their opinions instead of actually searching or ferreting out the information for themselves. And if that's where they're getting their news, these women who are Democrats who are now filing, they're motivated because they are convinced that the presidency of Donald Trump basically marks the beginning of going back to a regressive 1950s era where women are relegated back to the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? And I really think that's what it is. Remember the Women's March. Remember the pink hats. Remember everything that they say about how they're now oppressed in some new fashion. The Democrat Party, of course, loves this. It's no wonder they're people who are members of the Democrat Party that they're being inspired because the Democrats love a victim. Oh, they love a victim. They love to put a victim up on a pedestal until they can find another victim to put up on a higher pedestal to pit against the initial victim. This is their goal. This is their mentality. This is their MO.
See, the thing is, they're going to eventually find a victim that is at a higher pedestal than any other victim they've ever had, and they can never go any higher. What are they going to do after that?
I don't know.
Are they just going to continue taking this victim and putting them in scenarios where they're even more victimized and go, let's elevate them even more?
I
this
think,
one
though,
person.
They're setting up a system, though, where if you can define your own reality, right? If you're a person, and the Democrats have now got where they want so many victims. Notice they don't care about the DACA children. And we had a whole segment on this a few weeks ago. I got great feedback on it. DACA was supposed to be a thing. Donald Trump was going to give them a lot, and a bunch of it was amnesty and what conservatives don't want, or a pathway to citizenship. And the Democrats said, no, we'd rather them remain victims because they're more valuable to us that way politically. That's what they have done. That's practically what they said. They said, nope. I mean, you had Donald Trump wanting to solve the problem, and now solve the problem to some conservatives would have been like, well, you're kind of violating what you said. But at the same time, he wanted the wall. He wanted to get all this stuff done, right? But they're setting up a scenario where they want to keep people victims. If you look at the LGBTRSTLNE, which I like to buy a Val community, if you can define your own reality, you can always flip the script. You can always now say, well, no, now I'm a victim because I'm now, I was supposed to be born a llama. And there are no adequate, tables or parking spaces for people who feel like they're supposed to be a llama. I mean, why does the handicap logo, why does the handicap symbol, that's not a llama. That's a person. I'm not a person. I feel like I'm supposed to be born a llama. And so I'm a victim now because I need the symbols to be equal. I need the I'm a llama and I have a limp. I have a bad leg. But I want a handicap sticker that says, or what, you can't even say handicapped anymore, isn't it? See, that's a victim. That's handicapable. You can't say handicapped. That's wrong. You're supposed to say disabled. Oh, okay. Well, what? Eventually, there'll be a political reason. You can't say disabled anymore. This person is disabled, maybe, but they identify as someone who is an Olympic athlete. So you have to, it goes on forever, Joe. I don't think there is, I guess I would sort of disagree. I don't know if the way they're setting things up, I don't know if there's ever a way where they put someone on too high of a pedestal of victimhood.
That's true. And the thing is, when we were talking about the DACA kids earlier, just a minute ago, it really shows the Democrats' hand in a way, because they're going to sit there and scream and yell about the rights for these people. We want this, we want this, we want this. But here's the thing. When you hand it to them, when you give them what they want, what is the first thing they do? Mm-hmm. They go, let me think about it. And then they find some way to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then that's when the script completely flips, where they're like, we had this whole bill going and the Republicans shut it down for whatever reason. They closed it down. Well, actually, no. If you look at it, the Democrats are the one who shut it down.
Yeah.
They just said, let me think about it, and eventually it went off the table.
Yeah, it really is for somebody that wants to see, I mean, if you're a Democrat and you are really wanting this Dreamer issue to get fixed, to have some certainty, the Democrat Party to completely let you down. And it's all because they didn't want Donald Trump to get credit, but for fixing it and making Washington look like it's actually working under his leadership. And it's also because they wanted you to remain a victim because you're more valuable for them politically down the road, i.e. the midterms. These people are power hungry. These people see you as a pawn. They don't see you as a human being that actually, has a legitimate problem. And it's pathetic, really. They would rather you remain a victim. And they made that political calculation. That's why you're not hearing anything about this right now. And they're going to wait a few months, and then it's going to be, the Republicans haven't done anything again, and it'll be back in the news cycle and all the lies. But the reason we started this conversation was because of all the women Democrats who've now filed out of Northwest Arkansas, are a lot of women in general. And I'm just telling you, the reason that is because, number one, they think that Donald Trump represents some sort of, return of chauvinism, and that sort of thing. But let's keep going here. Senate Democrats did not field any candidates against Republicans. This is Doug Thompson's article. It does note that Senator Bledsoe is going to have a Democrat challenger, John Comstock. Both are from Rogers. This year's 15 Democratic House candidates include 10 women. Now listen to Denise Garner of Fayetteville. "We are fired up and fed up with the way things are going," she said. Now, this Denise Garner has filed against State Representative Charlie Collins. All right? "Women are more collaborative and willing to work together for the common good," she said. What a sexist statement that is. To just blanketly say. Now, if Charlie Collins had said...
And no one will call her out for that either.
Right. No one will, except us. If Charlie Collins had said, men are more collaborative and willing to work together for the common good, it would be over. It'd be the end of the world. It's a huge double standard. How can she say that? I mean, women are more collaborative and willing to work together for the common good. See, they only love equality when it fits them. When advocating equality benefits them, they're for it. And then then they want to use their own specific gender. Ooh, wow, by the way, in certain leftist circles, that could be very offensive. Women? Well, gender is not binary, or whatever they say.
I think the Democrats of Arkansas are trying something new.
Yeah.
Here's what they're trying. They are putting opposite-gendered individuals up against the incumbent.
No doubt.
And seeing how that goes for them.
Yeah, well, and Republicans are too, in a way. I mean, Senate District 16 primary. If you want something done, find a busy woman. This is what she also said. No, this is a different woman. If you want something done, find a busy woman, said Celeste Williams, Democrat candidate for District 95 in Bentonville. Wow. All right. This is where we're going now. This is where the Democrats are going. I am a woman, hear me roar. This is where we're headed. All right. Just so everybody knows, there's been a lot of interest in running for elective office since January 20th of 2017. inauguration day for President Donald Trump, Watson said. A lot of people became activists pushing back from the very beginning on the administration's anti-immigrant stance. Well, we just told you that that's not true. Its position on everything from global warming to tax policy. Well, the tax policy is actually really great. Global warming, well, you mean climate change now, right? Because it's not getting hotter. Isn't that what? Anyway, the nationwide, that's nationwide, she said. What was unique here was the bill allowing guns on campus. All right, so this is directly at Charlie Collins. Oh, Watson's a dude?
Yeah, if you go up to the paragraph before.
Will Watson. Yeah. Okay.
Who is the vice chairman of candidate recruitment for the
Joe.
Washington County Democrat Party.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Want to make sure we get his gender right.
Or presumed gender.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah. We got to walk carefully here.
Eggshells, Paul.
Eggshells. The result was more than just a boost in people running for office, Doug Thompson writes. He and Garner, now that is the female, Garner, said gun safety meetings in the region that used to attract dozens are attracting hundreds now. So this is all about, they make this about the issue of the campaign. Charlie Collins has this opponent. Now, Charlie Collins is a big government Republican that contorted his actual initial beliefs, trying to just let professors carry on campus into feeling more concerned with the politics of Asa Hutchinson than he was the policy. Now we have an enhanced carry bill that is completely garbage, by the way. I mean, it is just really, really, really bad, okay? This is my opinion of it. There's other people that share this opinion, okay? It goes on. Arkansas Republicans have been more pragmatic than their peers in other states, Collins said, which will help them avoid partisan backlash in upcoming elections. Now, this is where it's interesting, because what Charlie Collins says here, he is tattling on the Republican Party of Arkansas. This is a big deal. Arkansas Republicans have been more pragmatic than their peers in other states, Charlie Collins said, which will help them avoid partisan backlash in the upcoming elections. Doug Thompson goes on. Democrats in Congress passed health care reform when they were in power in 2010. Republican majorities in many states, including Texas and Alabama, reacted with defiance, refusing to enact state programs that were part and parcel of the Democratic plan. Now here's Collins. Quote, Republicans in other states stuck their chins out, went, and refused to do anything on health care, Charlie Collins said. This resulted in those states' residents paying the higher taxes mandated by the federal program while not receiving the benefits such as expansion of Medicaid program that required state-by-state approval. Now, let's stop there and refute that. The DSH payments to hospitals have never gone away. That's still happening. And why? Then you're going to get, well, okay, well, there were taxes. There was a sin tax on sunbeds and everything else. But why do we want a welfare program? Why do we want, Charlie, this whole thing was about, you know it. It was about putting 1/3 of Arkansans on Medicaid. And that's what we have here. We have 1/3 of Arkansas that's on Medicaid now. Why in the world would a Republican ever want that? If you know anything about dependency, if you know anything about what the big government is supposed to do to rob the populace of its ambition, that's the whole Marxist goal. So when you try to take it away, they riot. That's what was at stake here, and he failed to understand it. Now, Charlie Collins goes on and continues to tattle on the Republican Party. Think about this. He is confirming what I tell you every day. Republicans in other states stuck their chins out, he said, went and refused to do anything on health care. Charlie Collins is admitting that what the Republican Party of Arkansas has done would not and did not fly in other Republican-led states. Are we really to believe that a state that was blue for 138 years, controlled by Democrats legislatively, is just now red, sort of, all of a sudden had better ideas? Had better ideas than the rest of the states, and somehow we're the only ones that have screwed health care up as much as we have in the state of Arkansas than any other person in any other state in the union. Listen to what he says. He says the Republicans stuck their chins out and went, He said the Republican Party of Arkansas did not fall into that trap, Collins said. It is not It did not accept the program as designed either. The state legislature crafted a plan that used Medicaid expansion taxpayer money to subsidize private health care coverage. It also convinced federal regulators to approve the plan and grant the waivers needed to implement it. Now, if you think what Charlie Collins and the Republicans did, the establishment ones, is conservative, ask yourself why he is using the fact that they did what they did as a defense and as an excuse, as a reason why he will win over his Democratic incumbent, or a Democrat challenger. He's the incumbent. If it was so conservative, or it was so good for the state of Arkansas, how come he is confident that because they did it, because he did it, he's going to win, he's going to get reelected? Because he didn't take the partisan line of other states. He's exposing the entire Republican Party as having done what the Democrats wanted you to do all along, which was expand the largest expansion of government in Arkansas history, on top of Obama's signature domestic achievement. And even to this day, we have Republicans fighting tooth and nail to keep a socialist program from a socialist president. He goes on, quote, "We worked for the good of the public, not for partisan interests." Can I highlight another position, Joe? Let's go to a flashback. I want to highlight another position of Charlie Collins back last year, June the 10th. June 10th, Charlie Collins tweeted this: "I support shifting Arkansas tax burden from work and investment to sales, luxury goods and services, mansions, vacations, private jets, and yachts." This was Charlie Collins coming up with a bright idea to basically tax the rich. He's a Republican. Someone on Twitter called him out. Alan on Twitter said, "I don't remember seeing this in the GOP platform," to which Charlie Collins tweeted this: "I have some great ideas that haven't been written down in there yet." Okay, well,
I didn't know Charlie Collins had the power to change the GOP platform.
Well, I mean, he says that they're just not written down in there yet. Maybe they will be. Maybe a millionaire's tax, maybe a yacht tax, maybe a mansion tax. I don't know. Would Jake Files' old 10,000 square foot mansion, would that fall into that category? Maybe. You'd be taxing your buddy, Jake Files.
No, it doesn't count because it's 10,001 square foot and higher.
Right.
That's the
Right.
That's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
When you take all of this like in its totality, though, isn't this just unbelievable? It's all public information, and it's all out there for people to see. Folks, these Republicans, many of them are liberals. They are progressive, and they're heading the same direction as the Democrats. And they tell themselves, "No, we're not. We just don't believe in limited government. We just believe that we can run the big government better than the Democrats." Before we go to break, I know we have to go, but listen to this, Joe. I was at the mall the other day, and I was with my family, with my wife and my 8-month-old daughter. She's 8 months old today, actually. And we came out of this baby store because my wife was looking at some clothes or whatever. And we come out, and we almost get hit by a group of girls who are skipping down the mall. And it was fine, no big deal. And I thought to myself, skipping. And I turned to my wife, and I said, "Hey, do you remember when you used to be told not to run, and you decided that skipping was the alternative? Oh, the grown-ups say we're not supposed to run. Okay, all right, Mom, I'll just skip instead." That's it. Skipping is the exact same thing, if not more dangerous. That is what the Republicans have done. We told the Democrats were running. We, the voters, said stop running. And the Republicans get elected and say, okay, we'll just skip instead. We got to go. Back in a minute.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Now, this is an interesting thing. I don't know how true this is, okay, but we have Reggie on Facebook writing something about Asa Hutchinson. Now, we were just talking about how Republicans, the establishment Republicans, don't want to actually shrink or limit government. They just want control of the big government because they think they can drive the bus better, or they think they can drive the Cadillac better. Now, conservatives want you to trade the Cadillac in for like a Civic or a Pinto or something, you know, but they want to keep the Cadillac or the Rolls Royce or something. They want to make, we can do it better than they can. And in keeping with this, Reggie on Facebook writes that Asa told me, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it lends it to the discussion. I mean, I would assume it's true. But Asa told me, quote, I can spend your money more wisely. Now, I believe that that's a true statement. I'm inclined to, because that's exactly how he governs. Not to shrink government. These Republicans, these big government Republicans, are no better than the Democrats. In fact, they're worse, because now we have to prove that the Republican is actually a big government Republican as opposed to a limited government conservative. It was a lot easier to tell you that the Democrat Party has this platform and believes this. You need to vote for the Republican because they have a better platform. Now, within the Republican Party, we have to find out who is a true believer. But that totally, I agree. I mean, I can spend your money more wisely. The Republicans just want to give the money to where it's supposed to go, you know, where they think it's going to go. Their campaign donors, just like the Democrats, where they want it to go. You know, instead of a governor, what you have is a real estate agent who's selling Arkansas to Blue Cross Blue Shield, selling Arkansas to the Chinese. That's what's going on here, folks. One more hour coming your way next.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Viewpoint, right? But they also never were and had no experience or no tradition of actually governing. So the first thing that come down the pipeline that allowed them to actually move something forward governing, right, but had enough of window dressing to salve the conscience, they were willing to grab onto. I mean, I think it comes from a wave of a bunch of new legislators being unsophisticated enough to not be able to notice what's going to happen and what the tricks are that's being played in the system.
Yeah. There were some people that knew, and there were some people that tried to sound the alarm, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you had, at the time, well, yeah, we just played Tim Griffin back in 2014, but that was a year afterwards. I'm pretty sure he was against it before that. Congressman Rick Crawford came out with a statement of being against it. And then State Representative Bruce Westerman, now Congressman Bruce Westerman, had his
I was
famous...
about to bring that one up.
Yeah, go ahead. Talk about that.
Well, no, I was just fixing to say there was one person that had the intellect and the sophistication to really actually sit down and from a friendly standpoint and starting from a positive standpoint, listen to what everybody had to say. And then when it started falling out, you remember what he had to say. It was the 30 pieces of silver statement. And that was no accident. And I know that that was a bombshell, but it really, really should have solidified what everybody was thinking. Whenever a guy with the intellect and just the kind demeanor of Representative Westerman makes a statement like that, then it should have rattled every single other legislature to stop and think what's going on.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Hey, let me ask you this. I think recording in committees and recording the House is a good thing for the constituents and everything else, transparency. But do you know that speech that Bruce Westerman gave on the private option and how not to and why they shouldn't implement it and do not trade your vote for 30 pieces of silver, he said that. And, of course, that is verified now because Richard Womack said after the fact that he was offered a bribe to vote for the private option. State Representative Womack has said lobbyists offered him a bribe. So Bruce Westerman was right in saying don't trade your vote for 30 pieces of silver. But do you know that speech was used as a justification to not put cameras in the Arkansas Senate chamber because we don't need this to become, theater and the showboating. They thought Bruce Westerman was showboating when in reality he was just telling the truth.
Yeah, I mean, the Senate's always been resistant to any kind of accountability. It's the nature of the chamber. I think it's that way all over the United States because they're less accountable to the voters. They got a longer time period between times that they have to be up for election. So the natural outlay of that is what you see there. And, I mean, we see it happen all the time with our federal Senate, too. So, I mean, I find that rather unsurprising that that was going on. Now, you know, one of the things about it that's kind of interesting is everybody thinks the first thing that your mind goes to is taking a bribe and stuff like that. You know, there's tons of other ways that are all perfectly legal that this money flowed, whether or not it was promises for jobs afterwards or other things like that. I mean, it wasn't just flat out stacks of money in pie boxes, right?
Right.
I mean, there was tons and tons of other ways that people benefited personally from voting a certain way.
Right.
And of course, you know, from an ethical standpoint, that's just as wrong. From a legal standpoint, there's nobody to charge on this stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at Michael Lamoureux. I mean, I don't know why the lobbyists felt compelled to donate all that money to the Faith and Freedom Coalition, $140,000, and then he got a $120,000 payment. That was all legal, right? Because technically it went through his law practice and, you know, he's an attorney and everything else. So, I mean, we have examples of exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and of course, I wasn't even thinking of that one there. That's kind of new to me. I must have missed that piece of paper. But yes, I mean, exactly, those sort of situations. Jobs in different various places of government, jobs in different places in the industry. You've seen a lot of them fall out that really, you say,
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, hey, let me encourage you.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, so right before we ended, welcome, folks. Happy Monday to you. Right before we ended the program, the last hour, we were looking on Facebook. We're talking about big government Republicans just really wanting to drive the car of government, and they claim they can do it better than the Democrats, but they didn't want to actually change anything. And Reggie on Facebook wrote, Asa told me I can spend your money more wisely, which kind of goes into that same concept of, hey, we can just, we're driving the bus now, and we'll drive it better than the Democrats, meaning we're just going to give our money to Republican supporters instead of Democrat supporters. And I was like, I'm assuming that's true. But here now, more on the story, we actually have Reggie, who called in and wants to tell the story about how Asa told him that. Reggie, welcome to Conduit News Radio.
Hey, Paul, good morning.
Good morning to you. I know you're busy, but tell us the story.
No. I wrote I can, but he said I will. But I guess a little over 3 years ago, he had to make the obligatory campaign trail when he was running for governor, and he visited one of the two local radio talk stations at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he was on and talked a little bit, and they asked for questions, so I called in, and I gave him, a warning. I said, sir, consider myself a Jeffersonian Republican. I believe in less tax, smaller government, best government is that's closest to the people. And I said, my question is, what will you do when you take office to reduce the size of government? So he went into a short diatribe, and I said, well, sir, you didn't answer my question. And he said, well, I will spend your money more wisely. And then he said, we're just arguing over semantics. And I got hung up on.
Wow.
So that was his...
Go ahead.
That was his answer. But
so it's really always been plain and transparent. You kind of knew who you're getting. You got to read between the lines. I mean, his campaign ad said he was against Obamacare. He's for it. His campaign ad said he was for the Second Amendment, but it's really just a photo of him out there in the woods with a shotgun. I mean, that's not what the Second Amendment's about. Well, Reggie, that's fascinating. You said, what are you going to do to shrink the size of government? He says, I'm going to spend your money more wisely. And of course,
that's what he said.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've learned in the past few years he wasn't truthful.
Well, yeah, I mean, because he hasn't spent it more wisely. Actually, yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, he's taken, the legislature recommends a cheaper contract for a DHS service, and he goes with the $120 or $30 million more instead of doing what the legislator is recommending, and you got to wonder why. So, anyway, Reggie, I appreciate the phone call. Thanks for filling us in about your Facebook comment.
One more thing.
Yes, sir.
He created the largest expansion of government in Arkansas history. Arkansas works.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't end the largest expansion. That's what I would say. He didn't end it, and he could have let us out of it, but instead he has presided. He has presided over when he got that program and inherited that program. He's presided over a 50% increase in enrollment. And
he's increased the budget by $6 million.
Yeah,
so.
$600 million. Yeah. All right, Reggie. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you. Folks, you can sound off on Facebook if you want. That is facebook.com/Conduit News. That's facebook.com/Conduit News. The record of Governor Hutchinson is crystal clear. Folks, I'm going to be in Russellville this evening at 6 o'clock. Really excited about that. And everybody out here listening, everybody listening across the state, you're welcome to come out and not only meet me, but you can also meet Gary Stubblefield, Senator Stubblefield, Senator Alan Clark, State Representatives Charlotte Vining Douglas, Josh Miller, Dan Sullivan, and more. Not Joe. Joe's not going to be there. Sorry, Joe. We need somebody to do the live broadcast or handle the live broadcast tomorrow when we're from Russellville. But more importantly, meet Bob Bailey. Bob Bailey, this is a get the vote out special election early voting rally. We can call it, we'll just put as many names as we can in front of it. It's Monday, tonight, March the 5th, 6 o'clock. That's 404 North Arkansas Street in Russellville. That's 404 North Arkansas Street in Russellville. Feel free. I'm excited to go. And I'm going to be in Russellville, I guess, for the majority of this week. Be doing the show there, as well as, I guess, just telling people to get involved. The way I figure it is, I was talking to somebody yesterday. Why are you heading to Russellville? They said, and I said, you know what? Because this is Asa Hutchinson versus the people of Arkansas. That's what this is. This is Asa Hutchinson versus the people of Senate District 16. And he can't tell you he's a moderate. Breanne Davis can't tell you she's a moderate. They have to claim that there's something they're not. That's the truth. They have to claim that they're conservative because they know you are conservative. And we may lose. Liberty may lose. Giving freedom a chance and not being beholden to big pharma, big Medicaid, big tobacco, big marijuana, all this stuff, we may lose. But you know what? If we do, this is what I decided. I want to know that I got my hands dirty. I got down on the ground, and I tried my best to talk to as many people as I can in that district, just so that they know that they have a choice. They have a choice. You can go with the status quo, which is going to continue to grow government, which is going to continue to raise your taxes like Asa has with the tire tax, going to continue to advocate for more tax increases, which is what Asa has done. When you look at the gas tax, the internet tax, and more to come. Going to continue Obamacare, going to continue the spending increases. Or the people of District 16 can have a voice that's going to say, I respectfully disagree. I don't think these things should continue. I don't think we should continue going down this path. That's really all this is. It's all it is. Now, one side stands to gain a $2 billion windfall, yes, by continuing where we're going. And they will lose that if there's enough people that stand up and say, no, we don't want $2 billion of taxpayer money to go to Blue Cross Blue Shield while we are out there working so people who don't work can get something for free, who are supposed to be working. They're able to work, adults, this program. Anyway, we've gone through this a million times. But that is why I'm going to Russellville as soon as the show is over today. Because government must be tended to. And the bigger it gets, the less liberty we have. And if conservatism, hear me, Arkansas, District 16 specifically, if limited government conservatism gets rejected in Arkansas, in the Bible Belt, what chance do you think it has in Washington, D.C.? What chance do you think it has in New York State? What chance do you think it has in California? If it gets rejected here in Arkansas, all because Asa is backing Breanne Davis and Michael Lamoureux and Bruce Hawkins and CVS Caremark and big marijuana and tobacco and Medicaid and everything else and big alcohol, if that is what puts a nail in the coffin of, if that's what sinks us, how in the world do you think it'll ever have a chance? Because we know we're fighting the same establishment in Asa Hutchinson that true conservatives are fighting in Mitch McConnell. I think that's not a stretch at all to make that connection of Mitch McConnell and Asa Hutchinson, what you're trying to fight there. And in some cases, you can make the argument that Asa is much worse because less people know about what he's actually done in their name. At least people talk about when Mitch McConnell doesn't do or take the conservative limited government route. No one talks about it, really. Not many people. This program does. We're going to continue to do so. If conservatism can't work here in Arkansas, what chance do you think it has in other places? It doesn't. Doesn't have a chance, doesn't have a prayer. That's why this is important. It's very important. This is less about Asa Hutchinson's coattails, and it's more about liberty and giving freedom a chance, true economic freedom, real tax reform a chance. Let's stop the crony capitalism, and let's just say, let's stop. For you legislators who are listening, maybe you're driving into the Marble Palace right now. I don't know. I'm not sure if you guys are meeting today or tomorrow, but for you legislators who are listening, if you didn't want to fund the DHS budget because of Arkansas Works and didn't want to go along with Asa Hutchinson's agenda, my advice to you would be this. Say that you'll fund it as long as they apply for a waiver to put everybody back in traditional Medicaid, which will save an incredible amount of money. It'll end the windfall that Blue Cross Blue Shield is getting, and also make sure that you include in the waiver that the 90-10% match stays. Ask for that. If you want to fund this, that's the way I would fund it. I would say, okay, let's cap enrollment, and let's apply for a waiver to move everybody in traditional Medicaid. That's the only way I would fund this thing. You have leverage. You don't have to be we're just not going to fund it. You can actually say, we're not going to fund this thing. And you say, but we're going to cap enrollment so we have a knowable number, and we're going to move these guys or apply for a waiver to put them in traditional Medicaid, where they're going to cost us $300 a person instead of $570. Oh, by the way, you only pay if you go to the doctor in traditional Medicaid, and we're talking about a much healthier population. But this will require you to revolt. This will require you to revolt against Republican leadership and the governor. So you better make sure there's enough of you. That is my advice. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to reset. When we come back, the public corruption trial of Senator John Woods will continue. It will commence. He will not walk. The judge ruled that, I guess, last week, so this is a good thing. And wait until you hear what the judge had to say about what's coming next. This all may come crumbling down on the establishment. We got to take a break. Back in just a moment.
In Arkansas, every single hour there is a politician not getting what they want. For some, it's an absolute nightmare. The sleepless nights wondering if progress will ever come. Lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate. Asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure that life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
PHP Parody. Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, so Senator John Woods, the public corruption case of Senator John Woods will proceed after his defense made a motion to dismiss because of enough FBI agent deleting recordings from a computer. Didn't make much sense as to why he did that. Of course, they found all of the recordings. They do have them all, but the defense was trying to say that the government was acting in bad faith here, but not because they were hidden recordings or the unknown recordings, I guess is what we should say. The judge, I believe, has referred the FBI agent to criminal investigation or charges or whatever. So criminal investigation. So that's going to go. But this the judge in this case, and this is the judge, Judge Timothy Brooks. I would encourage the entire state to be praying for Judge Timothy Brooks because this is a guy. Well, in my opinion, for every good person in this state, they're looking for justice, and the things that we're told may result from this particular case may reveal in just a lot of there's politics involved here in the public corruption case of John Woods, and so I just pray for wisdom, like just that we actually have justice in terms of if there are laws broken, then people will be held account to that. Judge Timothy Brooks denied the defense motions to dismiss the corruption case involving former state senator John Woods, revealing in his court order that the chief FBI investigator in the case may face criminal charges. Okay. Doug Thompson is reporting, Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Here's a quote. Beginning in November 2015, Mr. Woods also cooperated for some time with the government's investigation while he was represented by an attorney, W.H. Taylor. However, in March 2016, Mr. Woods fired Mr. Taylor, hired his current counsel, Patrick Benka, and stopped cooperating with the government. Now, that's interesting. So Woods was trying to, I guess, cop a plea for a while. Remember, by the way, Jake Files has also pled guilty, so you would assume he's cooperating with the government on some things as well. Now, as to the FBI agent here, Robert Cesario, quote, Agent Cesario's actions are currently being investigated by the FBI's Office of the Inspector General, and depending on the results of that investigation, he may face criminal charges. This is the FBI agent that deleted the recordings that they actually still have, but he wiped the computer twice in a very weird, a lot of people wondering what's going on there. Judge Timothy Brooks' order or opinion goes on, but those are not the crimes that have been charged in this case. The grand jury has issued an indictment against these defendants. The public has an interest in seeing that indictment prosecuted, just as the defendants have an interest in holding the government to its burden of proof at trial. Of course, this is not just about the public corruption of John Woods. It's also the president of Ecclesia College in Springdale who's been indicted, Orrin Paris III, as well as Randall G. Shelton Jr., formerly of Alma, because they're involved in this kickback scheme where they essentially stole your money. Micah Neal has already pled. Former State Representative Micah Neal pleaded guilty to accepting $38,000 in kickbacks. I was at a wedding this weekend, and I met some really nice couple. Met a really nice couple from Chicago, and I was telling them a little bit about. They're like, "What do you do?" And that's always an interesting conversation. Like, when people ask me what I do, I'm like, "Okay, I'm in talk radio." You never know how you're going to react at talk radio. Okay, well, so now they know you're probably political if you know anything about talk radio. So now it's like, how do I break it to them? So I just say, like, when people ask me what I do, I just kind of throw it out there so we all know, we all get it out there. I'm a limited government talk radio host or something to that effect, right? Just get it all out there. So that sparked a great conversation with this couple from Chicago. And then I started telling them about how corrupt we are. And I kind of blamed it on them. I said, Al Capone used to come down here, and he basically started this corruption. They got a big kick out of it. Now, when I told them that Judge Mike Maggio accepted a bribe for $10,000, they were attorneys, so we talked a lot about tort reform. When I told them that Judge Mike Maggio had accepted a bribe of $10,000 to lower a nursing home judgment for Michael Morton from $5 million down to like $3 million, they said, "That's all? For $10,000? He did it for $10,000." I was like, this is Arkansas. $10,000, low cost of living. $10,000 goes a long way. Anyway, yeah. So this guy took $38,000. Just kind of when Micah Neal taking $38,000, that just popped in there. I was like, well, I guess even by Chicago standards, that's not a lot of money either. But still, he pled guilty to taking $38,000 of your money. It's your money. He used his position to get that money. So it goes on, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. There may be readers of this opinion who feel that this court, by declining to dismiss the indictment, is somehow allowing Agent Cesario, and by extension the government, to get away with bad conduct. The court would emphasize here that it does not condone Agent Cesario's action. It finds them reprehensible. But the public does not forfeit its interest in seeing crime prosecuted simply because one government agent happened to engage in bad conduct along the way. Thank you, Judge Brooks. Thank you. And now we get to the best part of the article. Scrolling down. Let's go to the, third to last paragraph. All three defendants have entered not guilty pleas. They face up to 20 years in prison on fraud and conspiracy charges. If convicted, Woods faces an additional 10 years on the money laundering charge, if convicted. Quote, this is from the ruling. The government's investigation into these and related matters is still ongoing and extends beyond the individuals and acts that have been charged in this particular case. Going on. Among other things, the investigation involved the tracing of legislative acts, the making and approval of GIF grants on a regional level, and the ensuing paper trail of disbursements, receipts, and proof that all of the proceeds were used as authorized. This dragnet involved the collection of an enormous number of documents, a number that has been represented to the court as extending into the millions. Folks, you want to know why the Bureau of Legislative Research needed to hire outside counsel to deal with FBI requests? Millions of documents? How far back is this GIF case going? And they want to make sure that when the money got authorized, it actually went to where it was supposed to go? You think anybody was giving GIF money to other organizations that were giving legislators kickbacks? I think the answer to that is a probable yes. Public corruption goes on. We've got to stop public corruption in Arkansas. Got to elect honest people. Back in a minute. Secretary of State Mark Martin. If you ever do want to get back into office, you want to take a break, I get that. You've done a great job as Secretary of State. You have been able, real quick before we go, you've been able to make improvements to the Capitol grounds there, some structural improvements that had been neglected for a long time, and you ended up doing it, within the budget or under budget. I mean, you saved a lot of money out of your office. Is that right?
Yeah, that's our actual budget over the 8 years have been essentially baseline, with the exception of the COLA increases that went to employees. The governor actually does, so that goes into our baseline budget. But within our baseline budget, we've actually had a zero baseline, and with that, we have actually done somewhere close to $20 million with a couple of grants on either the building or the purchasing election equipment. We've done that without additional appropriations for the legislature. Those were off-budget items that were supposed to be funded by the legislature. We've done it with budget cuts within our office. That means that now what used to be supplemental appropriations is actually being done out of the M&O, the Secretary of State's office, which is a huge transformation. It's probably equivalent to about a 25% budget cut over the long term of the office. Of course, there's more than that. We've gone from, depending on which numbers you want to look at before I took office, they had as many as or more than 226 full-time equivalent employees in the Arkansas Secretary of State's office. We're down to around 136, 138, depending on what time we set. So even though, there's tons of money that's associated with that will, for generations, be essential cuts, because all of the employment benefits divisions benefits that actually would go to a large workforce is now coming off of off-budget items. This is stuff that I don't even get credit for. It's a cut to the state budget because we don't have as many employees for long-term liabilities.
Yeah, well, that's really good.
So, really what we've got is a huge budget cut to the Secretary of State's office overall. And if you just look at the pure baseline numbers as far as the accounting of the DFNA,
folks,
it's a flat.
Just notice, Mark, I think the audiences would not disagree with me here. Listen to how excited he is about telling you about huge budget increases in my office. Like, you're a true conservative, Mark, so I want to encourage you to, when you take your time off, your state needs you again, and you need to throw your hat back in the ring at some point, and I really appreciate you coming on the program, Mark.
Well, it might be a while, but honest men don't get rich in politics, so I got to go back out and get some money, make some money some other way.
There you go. Also another indicator you need to run for office again. Honest men do not get rich in politics. All right, best of luck to you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Secretary of State Mark Martin, everybody. We're going to take a break. Hey, when we come back, I'm going to...
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, here we go. Welcome back. Remind everybody once again, I'm going to be in Russellville tonight, and for the remainder of the week, or most of the week. I'll be back in studio Friday, but I will be in Russellville doing the broadcast tomorrow morning through Thursday morning. But if you want to come and say hi, you can come to Russellville, 404 North Arkansas Street in Russellville tonight, March the 5th at 6 o'clock. You can come here, Bob Bailey, and we're having a rally. Come here, neighboring senators and House members, talk about the issues and why they support Bob Bailey as your next state senator for District 16. The early voting has started. It's commenced. The election will be held 1 week from tomorrow. The runoff election between Bob Bailey and Asa Hutchinson's pick his candidate, Breanne Davis. You can come and hear tonight Senators Gary Stubblefield and Alan Clark. I don't know if there's more coming, but I know those two are going to be there, as well as House member State Representative Charlotte Vining Douglas, State Representative Josh Miller, as well as State Representative Dan Sullivan. So that's all happening tonight, and I'm super stoked to be there. I'm going to leave here after the program. So, we were just talking about John Woods, and I'm telling you, that is huge. Can we throw that up there one more time? The public corruption trial of John Woods will commence. Part of the Judge Timothy Brooks' order said this in ruling that the defense's case or motion to dismiss was denied. Okay, so the public corruption trial of John Woods will proceed. A lot of the pleadings and the things that you would get have been under seal. The speculation for a long time has been the reason they're under seal is because it's going to reveal other investigations into other people. And I think that is pretty much 100% confirmed if you go to the bottom of this page and you look at the last two paragraphs. This is from Judge Timothy Brooks. The government's investigation into these and related matters is still ongoing, and it extends beyond the individuals and acts that have been charged in this particular case. Among other things, the investigation involved the tracing of legislative acts, the making and approval of GIF grants on a regional level, and the ensuing paper trail of disbursements, receipts, and proof that all of the proceeds were used as authorized. This dragnet involved the collection of an enormous number of documents, a number that has been represented to the court as extending into the millions. They're saying that the government, the FBI, has received or found millions of documents relating to their investigation into corruption of public officials in the state of Arkansas that go beyond the individuals that are listed in this indictment. Randall Shelton, Orrin Paris III, and former Senator John Woods. By the way, remember when Asa Hutchinson threw that fundraiser for John Woods when everybody knew he was going to be indicted? Everybody knew he was about to be indicted, and Asa Hutchinson throws a fundraiser for him. Remember, we got that invitation. Man, it's crazy. I wonder if some people make a calculation is like, well, I'd rather have a corrupt Republican than a limited government Republican. I wonder if that's like if that were ever a conscience, like somebody consciously thought that, man, you really must love your power, you know. Speaking of power, let's talk about the governor's nephew, shall we? Let's talk about nephew number one. Let's talk about Senator Jim Hendren. Talk Business and Politics has a very interesting Q&A. Roby Brock, Talk Business and Politics, talkbusiness.net. A Q&A with the future president pro temp. How do you... Tempura. I like a good shrimp tempura. Crab tempura, really? So the Senate President pro tempura. Tempura. Yeah. The Senate President pro temp. His name is Senator Jim Hendren. He was the majority leader, and he has been executing his uncle, the governor's agenda, with viciousness for a long time now. And it's kind of interesting because when he was elected and chosen to be the president of the Senate last week, he that essentially marked the end of any farce, any claim that there's now a separation of powers that still exists between the executive branch and the legislative branch. That is out the window now, folks. You got to understand that, right? The Arkansas Senate is now a state agency that answers to the governor because Asa Hutchinson is the president pro tempore of the Senate's nephew. Okay? Nephew and uncle here. Right? They are related. I don't know how close the vote was. Nobody will tell me how close the vote was. I have a feeling the chamber knows. No one wants to tell me how close the vote was between Jim Hickey and Jim Hendren. But I venture it was close. But there is no separation of powers now. And do you know how I know that there is no separation of powers now? Because Jim Hendren in this interview is claiming that there is a separation of powers. He's saying, well, no, it's not just going to be all Ace's agenda. It's a biggest, you can tell. I mean, I called it the other day. I said the only shot Jim Hendren has now to have, to show that he is to disagree with Asa every chance he gets. But that's not going to happen, not on the big issues. There may be some theatrical arrangements, but that's all it'll be. Speaking of theatrical, can we see this photo real quick? This is a photo. This is the photo that Talk Business went with. Scroll up. This is the photo. Now, can we zoom in on that a little bit? Can we zoom in? Just kind of zoom in on that. Does anybody want to know, if anybody wants to know why I call it the Marble Palace? Look at this, Joe. Can you zoom in on that for me, please? If anybody wants to know why we call this the Marble Palace, this is why. Do you see this? Now, scroll up. Now, look at this. I mean, hey, this is, you feel like you're somebody here, right? You see the columns? I mean, might as well start eating horizontally, having people feed you grapes. This is the Marble Palace. This is the establishment. This is the face of everything limited government conservatives are trying to stop. Scrolling down, let's get to some of the interview here. And we get to this. Roby Brock, how are you going to lead the Senate? Well, he's already the majority leader. I'm going to assume the exact same way. But Roby Brock, how are you going to lead the Senate? Will it be a Republican agenda or will it be an all-members agenda? Listen, the Democrat, what's his name? Keith Ingram, the senator there, he was praising Jonathan Dismang as listening to both sides. If you want to listen to both sides, win some elections, okay? Win elections, Democrats, and that's the stance that any reasonable Republican president pro temp should take. If you want input, okay, get control a committee. Oh, you got to win elections to do that. All right, well, tough. But no. That's not where we're headed here. How does Jim Hendren answer this question? He says, quote, I view the role of President Pro Temp different than the role of Majority Leader. My last 4 years, my objective, and I feel my mission, has been to implement the Republican agenda in the Arkansas Senate. Stop. No, not the Republican agenda, not the platform. Jim Hendren, you pushed for tax shifting. We now know that the military retirement tax, which you directly benefited from and voted for, there were other military retirees that actually abstained from voting because they didn't want to vote for something that actually they personally would benefit from. But the military retirement income tax cut actually increased the amount of money going to the government. It wasn't revenue neutral, okay? That is not the Republican agenda. That is Asa Hutchinson's agenda, and it was your agenda because I get it. You're a military retiree. I understand that, right? I get that. But instead of absorbing the $13 million it would have cost us to do this and making cuts elsewhere, right? I mean, what's the difference? The governor is increasing spending this year by $172 million. I mean, why couldn't he have just increased it $169 million? Or I'm sorry, that's the wrong math. $159 million. Why couldn't he even increase it that much? It's what's the difference there? Anyway, so He says, see, this is oblivious, clueless, all right? You've been implementing the Republican agenda. No, you've been implementing the agenda of your uncle, and you're going to continue to do that. He goes on, I was the majority leader, and my job was to not worry about necessarily harmony. It was more to worry about getting the job done. As President Pro Temp, my job's a little bit different. It's to make sure that the Senate functions efficiently, the Senate maintains decorum, that we can make sure that we protect the institution, and it's certainly somewhat in tatters now because of some of the behavior that's been going on the last few years. Jake Files and John Woods. So my first item is going to make sure that we do everything that we can to protect the integrity of the Senate and instill a culture of integrity and ethics. Stop. You think maybe Jim Hendren knows that there is maybe something coming down the pike that might expose the Arkansas Senate as being even more corrupt than it already is in the headlines? Do you think maybe he knows something about that? I don't know. I'm kind of reading into it, but I kind of feel like he might. If that's what his mission is, to restore the reputation of the Senate, well, it may get worse before it gets better. You know what I mean? And by the way, why are these people so afraid of using the power that the people have given them? I mean, essentially, Jim Hendren is saying here that he's going to give the Democrats a voice, but really, there's nothing to see here because he's been giving the Democrats a voice by implementing their policies for them. Anyway, the Republican agenda is a joke. Asa doesn't care about the Republican agenda. He makes excuses for it. He waits till the corporations call, waits till Walmart calls, gives up on the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, stops real tax reform from even being debated last year because he wanted a tax farce. And guess who heads up that tax? I guess is that if he's now the president of the Senate, does that mean Jim Hendren's no longer going to be the task force chairman in chief? Is that what it means? Is Jim Hendren no longer going to get to manage the predetermined outcome by delegating the duly elected legislative powers to a select small group? In the form of a task farce or a healthcare task farce? Does that mean the president of the Senate is going to be focused on other things, or is he still going to be the guy who heads up the task forces? I'm just curious. The reason I say that is because if you talk to some of these task force members, they'll tell you they don't get the information, they don't know what's going on, and it really is just a Jim Hendren show, and he's the one that controls everything. That it's not, so you've delegated the legislative authority down to a smaller group of people, easier to manage, and then even in that, there's still not the freedom to pursue ideas. This is the way the Hutchinson-Hendren relationship goes. They govern by task force because it's easier to control the will of the people that way. They want predetermined outcomes. They don't want the people's system to work. They want to control it. They want to manage it instead of just allowing people to legislate. I'm waiting for the legislature of Arkansas to quit being lapdogs. I'm waiting for you guys to, good for Jimmy Hickey. Good for Senator Hickey. I'm glad that he decided to challenge Jim Hendren. I don't think Jimmy Hickey's voting record is fantastic. I don't agree with him on everything. He's not, in my opinion, look where he scored. But good grief. Anything would be better than the governor's nephew that ends the separation of powers. And for anyone to stand there and say, no, we're still separate but equal. No, we are not. No, we are not. Because blood is thicker than politics. Family relations are thicker. And anybody with sense would agree with you. And okay, let's say I'm wrong. Okay. The appearance is all that there needs to be. The appearance of a fix. The appearance of a diluted separation of powers. Let's put it that way. That's the nicest way I can put it. It should be avoided at all costs. And it is what it is. But he says he's been pursuing the Republican agenda, and that's not true. And I wanted to point that out. But delusion, is a powerful thing. Where are we going to go next? To break? Okay. We're going to take a break, folks. Who will stand up for Republicans in the Senate is what Gene on Facebook writes. I don't know. I'm not sure. Special election in Senate District 16, though. We may have help on the way. And Bob Bailey. Back in a minute.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to TripleRPawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's TripleRPawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, TripleRPawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
All right, so Tim on Facebook writes, we've been nephewed again. Yes, we have. Yes, we have. No, it's okay. It's okay, Joe. We'll have plenty of time to get to that parody. Uncle, nephew, and nephew will. Yes, we have. We can look forward to more of this. But here's the thing. Backing up, this is what we need to talk about. Let's compare this statement by the new president of the Senate, who basically is the governor's nephew, eliminating the separation of powers. Arkansas Senate is now a state agency under Governor Asa Hutchinson, not an independent legislative body, because of who the president of the president of the Senate is. But he says that he wants to protect the institution of the Senate because it's in tatters now. Is it in tatters? Is it in tatters, or is it going to be in tatters? Go back to John Woods. The government's investigation into these and related matters is still ongoing, and it extends beyond the individuals and acts that have been charged in this particular case. Among other things, the investigation involved the tracing of legislative acts, So meaning if you were passing a bill and getting money for it, the making and approval of GIF grants on a regional level, meaning were you getting kickbacks, and the ensuing paper trail of disbursements, receipts, and proof that all of the proceeds were used as authorized. Maybe they weren't used. This dragnet involved the collection of an enormous number of documents, a number that has been represented to the court as extending into the millions. This is huge in the John Woods public corruption case, and we now know, according to the judge, Timothy Brooks, that this is going a lot further. This is not going to stop with John Woods, Mike and Neil, Orrin Paris, Jake Files, or whoever else, Eddie Cooper. This is going to go further. They've got millions of documents. Now, a long time ago, my sources said that my sources at the Capitol were saying that, hey, the rumor was anywhere between 15 to 17 lobbyists and legislators were going down. Were going to be indicted. I don't know if that's still true. It was late last year. They said the indictments were coming any second. That was back when the public corruption trial of John Woods was scheduled to start on December the 5th. Now it's not happening until April, but it got delayed back then. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I will tell you this, we'll see what happens with the Senate, right? I mean, my sources were telling me the names that they were hearing, some of them they couldn't believe. So we'll wait and see. I have, hang on a second. Did I read this right? Hang on a second. Oh my goodness. Joe, scroll it down. Go back to this Jim Henron article, this Roby Brock. I can't believe he said this. Will that involve new rules, Roby Brock asks. Will there be something else involved? He goes, and there may be some new rules. I can tell you at a minimum there'll be some significant training and orientation involved, particularly for new members and really for all of us. Skipping down, there's going to be additional training, which the House has already done. We're going to have to make sure that we make all of our members aware that sexual assault, sexual harassment will not be tolerated. Some of the behavior that used to be acceptable 30 or 40 years ago just is not acceptable today. Oh my goodness, what are you talking about? The President of the Senate? We have sexual assault. Is that why it's in tatters? You have to educate people on sexual assault? What is going on here? Are we embracing this Me Too movement of accusations? Now, I'm not a fan of sexual assault. Who is? But how is that? This is the beginning of the interview. How is this the point? I mean, how is this like? This is like answer number 2. This is in answer number 2 in this printed interview by Roby Brock. Is that we have to train the Senate members on what is sexual assault or sexual harassment? Interesting. I mean, I can understand the House doing it because, and for the record, I always like a good-looking woman sitting beside me. Somebody on Facebook, Gene, says that the Bureau of Legislative Research hired a high-power lobbying firm, to try to fight the FBI. The legislature hired a high-powered law firm to fight the FBI. Yeah, the Bureau of Legislative Research did. So we're talking about these millions of documents that Judge Timothy Brooks is saying go beyond the John Woods public corruption case and point to other people. The Bureau of Legislative Research hired the same law firm that also represents the Goss family from Preferred Family Health Care, and that's the Eddie Cooper connection, former State Representative Eddie Cooper, the guy from New Jersey, the Medicaid funds being used to give political donations to lobby for more money. That's the Goss family. Okay, is it Tom or Tim or his wife Bontia? The same law firm is representing the Bureau of Legislative Research and prepping witnesses for the John Woods case. Now, that's a huge conflict of interest. Nobody seems to have a problem with it unless you are a rational, sane person, which you don't find very many of those in power at the Marble Palace in Little Rock. I'll see you guys tomorrow live from Russellville on the campaign trail. District 16, Bob Bailey. See you tonight in Russellville as well.